I am doomed right now. I actually set up 2 cameras to record this podcast, and one failed again, and the other one was my mistake. I had it on still and not video. So please accept my apologies, but this is going to be a non-video podcast again this week. I will get this straightened out. Thank you for your patience. Now here's the podcast. Welcome to the This Gal Travels podcast, the show that helps you travel more, travel easier, and travel better. I'm Trina, and today I am talking about all those wonderful things that you do on vacation that you never do at home. My best pro traveler tip is at the end of the show, so make sure you stay tuned and listen all the way through. So what do you do on vacation that you never do at home? Put it in the comments. I'd love to see what you have to say. Of course, you're probably trying new exotic foods, and you might be drinking more. Some people not, but some people drink more when they go on vacation because maybe they just don't drink much at home, but they're having a party when they go on vacation and it's time to celebrate. Also, if you happen to be in a resort type setting, it's really easy to drink safely and then go back to your room really easily. I'm going to put one tiny warning here is if you do drink more or if you drink a lot, when you party, be careful of your surroundings. Don't go out to some strange bar, not have arranged ride home and drink too much. Don't get yourself drunk in a precarious situation. I'm not saying don't drink, I'm not saying don't have fun, but do take care with where you do it. Okay, that's my safety thing. But the other thing is, when you go on vacation, when you're traveling and you get to try all these new adventures, there's all these new adventures out there, and you are going to do things like go to festivals. I have been both to a fire festival and a water festival, and both had their challenges. The water festival was in Myanmar, and man, they had water cannons and everything else, and there wasn't any danger there, and the people were absolutely wonderful. Thrilled to have me and Tim visiting and trying things out. The fire festival was the same. Everyone here in Ghana was entirely welcoming. I've been to 2 fire festivals now. The thing is, in the fire festival is they're careful with the fire. There's no doubt that they're careful with it, but things do fall down on you. I've gotten slightly damaged clothing and a little on my skin, but it's within reason. But some people actually wet themselves down before they go to the fire festival to protect themselves. But you go to all these wonderful cultural events and you get to learn all these new things. You might socialize more. You might not be really social at home, but you find that when you go on vacation, you get more gregarious. You're meeting new people, and they might be exciting new people, and they might be new friends, and they might be new friends that end up as future travel partners. Or you might meet someone you don't care for very much, and then you don't ever have to see them again after the vacation. So you have a freedom in that, and that's a really nice thing to do. Everyone has different behaviors that they do on vacation that they don't do at home. You're probably eating out more. I have to admit, I didn't cook a lot at home, but when you travel, unless you're really set up with an Airbnb or something, you aren't eating leftovers and cooking in the kitchen very often. So you're definitely eating out more when you travel. You might learn a new language, or you might go to tourist sites. In your home city, you probably don't do the tourist sites very often. But, when you go traveling, you always hit all the tourist sites. Let me ask, that's the second question I have for you, if you want to answer it, is do you do touristy things in your hometown, wherever your hometown is? Do you make it a point to go see all the tourist stuff in your hometown? So that's another question for you. Leave it in the comments. So whether you're trying exotic foods or going on new adventures, that is one of the wonderful things about a vacation or a travel of any sort. And the thing is, it gives you freedom. Travel gives you freedom. It might be because where you're traveling to is more affordable, so some of those activities you might have been curious about, you can afford to try out and see if you like it, whereas at home it might have been a very expensive endeavor. Or it can simply be the freedom of not having the shackles of, oh, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I've got to get this done for work, or I've got to get this done for school, or whatever you're doing. Okay, so you have all this freedom when you travel. And so you try new things. I used to make it a point when I traveled is if there was a horseback ride to be had, I'd take it. I didn't do horseback riding at home, not at all. I'm a tourist horseback person. And, so I've done some simple rides, and now see, this is one. My first time I went to Egypt, and I was told, the story was don't ride a camel at the pyramids, because then once you're up on the camel, they'll threaten to not let you down unless you give them more money. And that was the scam that was going around at the time. I don't know if it's still true. That was a long time ago. But so I chose horses. I figure I can get down off a horse. Well, one, I didn't realize their horses are really, really tall. We rode horses, and I had this young guy as my guide, and I don't think they did this to be mean or anything, but they started running. And I had no idea how to run on a horse. And man, I was just hanging on, hoping I didn't fall off. And when they stopped and I got them to stop, I'm like, I almost fell off. Don't run again. Fortunately, I would have fallen in the sand. Hopefully, I wouldn't have gotten hurt. But they were fine with that. They didn't mean to do something that they didn't realize I didn't know how to do that. And so that's one of those things that you try and you don't always know what you're getting into. And yet, those are the very experiences that you can learn from. You get this freedom, and then you try these new things, and then you learn from these experiences. And that's one of the wonderful things is on a vacation. If you're going for a vacation with any bit of adventure in it, you just get all this newness brought upon you. And to me, that is one of the most wonderful things about travel. I've done more hiking on vacation than I ever did at home. And I had the Santa Monica Mountains if I had been really determined to go hiking. But when I travel, my hiking always has a goal at the end. As I say, I'm not a hiking for hiking's sake person. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not as much me. I like to have something at the end, either a village or a site or something to go do or see at the end of my hikes. And that's why I end up doing it so much when I travel. And then there's activities like kayaking. I did kayaking for the first time in Thailand. And it was great. It was fantastic until I wore myself out. I mean, I truly wore myself out to the core. And I was actually sick for a couple weeks afterwards because I had the paddle back was against the current, and I actually had to have the owner of the company came and helped in my boat because I was solo in a two-person boat, and he came and helped because the current was so strong, I just couldn't keep up with it and to get ahead of it. And I loved the day, and the kayaking was fantastic, but it wore me out. And that's the thing is you don't always know what's going to happen, but it is great to have the adventure. So let me ask you this. I'm asking you all sorts of questions this time. So when you travel, have you ever gotten out into an adventure and then, had things go slightly wrong, or maybe a lot wrong? I'm not looking for disaster stories, but slightly wrong, like feeling like you're going to fall off a horse, or wearing yourself out on a kayak trip. I will say I did have another experience with the horses that was really cool. We were in China in 2007, and we went up a mountain to a Buddhist monastery. See, that's the kind of thing. I like to have a goal at the end of these things. But I actually did a really good job of controlling the horse that time. I know the horses know their way, but in this case, it was a challenging enough trail because it was up a mountain that I actually had some input with the horse, and I think I did a really good job that day, and I felt really good about how I did. So, I do have good horse experiences. I still need to learn how to run on a horse. But that's what I mean. You have all these new experiences, and see, every time you learn, every time you grow. And when you go on vacation, you have this kind of crazy confidence. Now, in the last episode, if you're watching these in sequence, I spoke about soft adventure and the idea that soft adventures are adventures that almost everyone can do and that most people can do, and you can do them for the first time pretty much when you arrive with little or no real training of any sort. And that's why it's a soft adventure and not the hard adventure where people have to work up to things. And so soft adventures are great on vacation. And of course, you have these tours that are available, whether it's through your hotel or wherever you sign up for them. And they can be just day tours. And they give you the confidence to go because they're going to send experts with you. And that's all completely fine. To me, that's the fun stuff. That's the meat of the adventure. If I can do an adventure on my own, I'm completely good with that, But there are some places where it's never just you because you need more equipment, you need guidance and all that. So as I say, that's a day trip kind of thing. And these guides are like, oh yeah, you can do it. Yeah, we'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. And generally they do. Even in places with low safety concerns, the people that run the tours want you to have a good experience. So they are going to look out for you. And I can definitely guarantee this because I was traveling with my husband, Tim, and he was mostly blind, okay? And he wasn't in the greatest shape. And every time we went somewhere and every time there was a guide, they took care of him. So you can generally trust most tour companies to do a decent job of taking care of you. This is where it's good to look at reviews and all that. But as I say, there's also this thing that happens when you're on vacation is you kind of get this crazy confidence that you just sort of believe you can do anything. And it is absolutely wonderful. And yet you've got to be a little careful to not get so overconfident that you get yourself into something that might be a little bit over your head. You have to balance between pushing yourself and not getting yourself into trouble. And of course, then there are things that happen that are completely unexpected, that have nothing to do with you doing anything wrong. You didn't make any bad judgment. Nothing is your fault at all, but stuff happens. Tim broke his leg about 6 or 7 months into our world tour. We started in December of 2017, and it was 6 or 7 months later, he had a mishap where he broke his leg. And basically what it was is we had been on a bus for about 6 or 7 hours. It was actually a minivan. And we got to our destination, and we were in Laos, and he went to the bathroom. Well, in Southeast Asia, they have steps everywhere. They have stairs into everything. And when he was coming out of the bathroom, he tripped, he twisted his foot somehow on the step, and he broke his leg. And the thing is I got to him in time to keep him from falling entirely to the ground hard. I mean, I got to slow him down. The thing is, his leg had broken on the way down. So, he broke his leg coming out of the bathroom. And that stuff happens sometimes. And, this is where travel insurance is a really good idea. I say if you can afford to travel, you have to budget in and you have to be able to afford the travel insurance. First of all, it's not that crazy expensive. And second of all, if something does happen, it is gonna save you money. When Tim broke his leg, we ended up with private transport the next day. Don't even talk to me about the hospital in Laos, the one out where we were, which was in the country. They wrapped his leg okay, but other than that, they were bad. They weren't prepared to take care of him at all. And so we ended up with private transport back to the capital. We got to the capital. The tourist hospital there said, oh, this is too hard for us. And they sent us back over to Thailand. If you get yourself hurt in Laos, they are probably going to send you to Thailand. Thailand has great medical overall. And, that expense would have been there. The hospital in Thailand would have been there. It was a private hospital, of course, to handle something like that. And then there was the wheelchair, there was the physical therapy afterwards, there was a walker, there were all these things. And our travel insurance took care of all of it. It would have been thousands of dollars. It would have been a huge chunk out of our travel fund. And if you're just on vacation and something like that happens, that thousands, it could cost that much. And the truth is they would have flown us home had we wanted to. But at that point, we had sold everything and we didn't have a home to go to anymore, so we stayed in Thailand because they were taking really good care of him. But the travel insurance takes care of things like that, and it takes care of big stuff. And that's why I say it's like absolutely necessary, because you don't know what might happen. It might happen when you're doing something like riding on a horse and they run and then you fall and something happens. Or it might happen when you're coming out of the bathroom, or it might happen because you take a moto taxi. I was at the water festival in Myanmar and nothing bad happened here. But the only way to really get back to my hotel, except for walking, was a motorcycle taxi, and you just sit on the back and go. And I ride a motorcycle. I have no problem with it, but there's always that someone else is driving. And what about the other cars on the road? Stuff can happen. But that was really the only way to get home, because it was over 100 degrees, 40 degrees for you Celsius fans. And I wasn't going to walk the 2 or 3 miles in the heat. So that was my only way home. So, there are times when, as I say, you do nothing wrong, but you end up needing travel insurance. And yes, I'm going to talk about travel insurance for a little bit, because I don't know if everyone understands how important it is. And you can sit there and say, yeah, but I've been on vacation plenty of times and nothing has ever happened, and I don't want to waste my money on travel insurance. Well, as I say, if something does happen, it can save you thousands. And by the way, I'm going to link to an article I have that just compares 2 of the top travel insurance companies, and you can decide for yourself, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to choose your travel insurance, because that's really important, is choosing the right one. Okay, and I'm not going to push you towards any one or the other, because everyone has a different situation, but I'm just going to tell you some of the parameters you should consider. First off, besides things like big accidents, like broken legs and things like that, it can cover you for a lot of things. It can cover you even if you just get like severely sick and end up in the hospital, like if you got bronchitis or pneumonia or something. It would probably cover you, and I'm going to say probably because I can't guarantee every situation or every country's insurance, so I'm not promising you any coverage. Everything, you have to read your policy and know what you're getting into. And that's one of the keys, is no matter what anyone tells you, you got to read your policy. But they'll take care of you in cases of illness, but they also take care of you in things like if your luggage gets lost, they'll help you find it, or cover your costs if it's not found. If your trip gets delayed, whether it's the airline or other reasons like weather and all that, they cover those sorts of things. If you are in a country and it suddenly becomes unstable and you find yourself, surrounded by a coup happening, which, I travel in West Africa a lot, and it's not entirely unheard of around here. But you could have that. You could have natural disasters that happen out of the blue. And travel insurance will do everything they can to get you to safety, no matter your situation. Okay? So there are all these things that can happen, and I'm not trying to scare you. Most of the time they don't. But there's all these things that can happen that travel insurance covers. And that's why it's important to have. It's not just, oh, I'm young and healthy, I don't need travel insurance, I can handle whatever's thrown at me. No, you need it because stuff happens. So what do you look for when you are shopping for travel insurance? Partly, don't overthink it. Some of the smaller coverages, the trip cancellation and the lost luggage and that sort of thing, usually if you start comparing them, they end up panning out. They end up kind of where one's a little stronger here, the other one's a little stronger there. What you really want to look at are things like, first of all, does your age affect the price? Because some companies it does and some companies it doesn't. So see how your age affects the price. Of the 2 companies, the 2 of the top companies that I cover in that article, one it does, one it doesn't. So be aware of that. But the other thing, and probably the more important thing, is what activities do you plan to do? Because one of the companies that are in that article, and I'm not naming them right now because there's like legal things about comparing and not comparing on insurance, so I'm not naming the companies right now. But one of them is a little bit light on the activities covered because they're more geared towards digital nomads and a little bit younger crowd. So you might look at their list of activities and say, yeah, but I want to do this and this and this. And so if I'm not covered, well, saving some money might not be saving it because I'm not entirely covered for everything I want to do on this trip. Okay? And then the other company does run a little more expensive, but they cover a lot more activities. In fact, they have 2 tiers that you can purchase from. And you can be basically the regular adventurer, and that would be like most of the stuff that I talked about in the soft adventure travel episode, is that what things most people will try on a vacation that you can kind of try with not a lot of practice. Okay, and then they have their super adventurer tier, so that if you do want to do things like, hardcore adventure, you want to run with the bulls, you want to do, super black diamond skiing or extra deep scuba diving, and they'll split activities like that too. So like beginner scuba diving, to a certain depth is on the regular people level, and then the, extra deep scuba diving, the more dangerous scuba diving is on their extra tier. So they have something to fit both sets of people, and I think that's great. I think that's a great way to do it. So you have of these 2 companies, you would basically have 3 tiers, is light activity, medium soft adventure, type people, and then you have the super adventurers, and all those options are there. So you need to pick the one that is the right level for you. When I was choosing for me and Tim, we were definitely in the regular adventure. There was one activity that we might have ended up doing that we didn't end up doing on this trip, but it was hot air ballooning. Last time I checked, it was on the super tier. We only did that once, and we did it in China, and this was 2007, and we got an incredible price. It was almost like we showed up and they had a couple empty seats, and they're like, well, we'd rather get a little something than nothing. So they gave us a great price. They were like, I think it was like $100 for the 2 of us to go on this 40-minute hot air balloon flight. That was amazing. And they were like, don't tell the other couple what you're paying. That's how good it was. Since then, we never found something where we were willing to pay what the usual price for that is. But that was the one activity, if we had done it, we would not have been covered for. But it was only one activity. Other than that, that regular tier, that middle adventurer tier was perfect for us. But that's it. That's the thing, is you have to look at what's right for you. You might not be into all that adventure. You might be that urban person who just likes to go out and go marketing and shopping and partying. And so you might not need all that soft adventure or hard adventure type coverage. You might be able to go with the coverage that is a little bit lighter, but much more affordable. So you have to decide for you, and that's the most important thing. So my formula for suggestions on travel insurance is simply take your age and see if the company's based on age at all or not. Take your age and then add in the activities you want to do and see which level of insurance matches up. Okay? See which one matches up with all the reasonings thereof. So that's really what you're looking for. And as I say, usually the extra little coverages balance out one way or another. You might also want to check with your credit card company, because they probably have some insurance for you too. It's not going to be robust enough to cover big activities and that, but they might have some lost luggage and delayed travel type coverage that you can look into and just see what they offer. It's like if you buy the tickets with them, they'll cover that portion of the trip. Check with your credit card company too, just so you know what you're covered for. No one I know that travels a lot considers travel insurance optional. We all know that when you have the travel insurance, it's one less thing to worry about. Okay, you're on vacation, you don't want to worry about anything. If you have your travel insurance in place, then you also know that you are covered. And most travel insurance you can buy the day of your travel, the day before, the day of, even once you're already on the vacation. You can't buy it like after the thing has happened though. You can't say, oh, well, I'll buy it if I get in an accident. No, that doesn't work. But if you sit there and say, oh, I forgot. Yeah, most of them, I can't guarantee all of them, but most of them will let you buy it and start it right away. And consider this, while you are going out and having all this fun and all these new adventures, and you're learning languages and trying foods and trying new activities, which is one of the biggest things, and you're doing all this stuff, exploring new places, you have that peace of mind. You just have peace of mind when your travel insurance is in place. And one last thing about travel insurance is no matter what I've said, you need to check your policy with the company you choose very carefully, because every country, even every state in the US, is different. So definitely check your policy for anything individual to make sure you're covered for it. Don't take my word for anything, because I cannot speak to your individual situation. I am speaking in generalities. Okay, and your pro traveler tip for today is not just to get insurance, but when you have it, if something happens, contact the insurance company right away. It happened to us in Laos. I wasn't able to get a hold of them immediately, and I'll admit there was a portion of the transport from the accident location, it was my portion of the transport, that they didn't cover because they hadn't pre-approved that particular thing. So the pro traveler tip is definitely call them as soon as something happens, call them when you need help. They are a wonderful resource, and you are not going to regret making a phone call to the travel insurance company. Stay on top of it from the beginning, and you are going to get the best results possible. Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next time.